Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So till now we have covered straddles and strangles, and in this video we'll be discussing iron flies and iron condors. So straddles and strangles basically have two things in common. So the maximum loss is unlimited in both the scenarios, and the capital required is also high in both these strategies. Now, if you are someone who is not comfortable carrying these positions overnight, that is you're afraid of big gap ups or gap downs in the market, and you don't want your M2M losses to be huge, then iron flies and iron condors would be something really interesting for you. Until now, we have only either sold call options or put options, and we did not buy any contract as such. In iron condors and iron flies, buying will also be involved. So let's see how this buying will affect our strategies. So let's say we have a strangle. Okay, so let's see the expiry is somewhere here. Okay, in this scenario, since we have sold a call option here and a put option here, both the contracts are going to give us a profit and we'll eventually end up in a profit. But let's say if the expiry price is somewhere over here, let's say this is the graph and the expiry price is here. In this scenario, the call option which we sold is going to give us a profit, but the put option which we sold is going to give us a loss, and this loss will be higher compared to the profit given by the call option, and will end up in a loss. So we end up in this region. Similarly, on the right hand side, the put option is going to give us a profit, whereas the call option is going to give us a loss, and this loss will be higher than the profit which we receive from the put option, eventually us ending up in a loss. Now, what happens when we buy an option? So we sold a put option here, we sold a call option here. Now let's see, we want to buy a put option because we don't want unlimited downside risk. So what we do here is we take a little distance and we buy a put option. Now what will happen in this scenario is, if the market is going to, if the expiry price is going to be, let's say this, in this scenario, the the call option which we sold is going to give us a profit, the put option which we sold is going to give us a profit, but the put option which we bought is going to give us a loss, and eventually we'll end up in a profit. Now let's say if the expiry is somewhere over here, what will happen in that scenario? The put option which we sold is only going to give us a profit, the put option which we bought is going to give us a loss, and the call option which we sold is also going to give us a loss, and eventually we'll end up in a loss. Now let's see what will happen when the expiry price is to the extreme left. So the call option is going to give us a profit, and the put option which we sold is going to give us a loss, but the put option which we sold is going to give us a profit. Now what will happen is, this loss is way greater when we compare it to the profit in the call option, right? But this difference, which keeps on increasing as we move towards the left extreme of the graph, this difference is going to keep on increasing. But what will happen is, this difference is going to be taken care by the profits of our put option. So eventually we'll end up in a loss, but this will not be an unlimited loss. This will only be a limited loss. Let's say initially the graph was like this. So this was infinity. But now what will happen is, this will be taken care by this put option, and this graph will look something like this. So still there is an unlimited loss if the price keeps on increasing, but the downside risk is reduced to a fixed number, and we cannot have a loss more than more than this in the downside. Similarly, on the upside, if we go and buy a call option, if we go and buy a call option, so these were our previous put option and call option, and now we buy a call option, our graph would look somewhat like this, wherein our upside loss is minimized, and we have a unlimited loss in the downside. Now let's see what will happen when we, this is put option which we sold, this is call option which we sold. Yeah, so now let's see what will happen when we buy put option and call option on both the sides. So the loss is going to be restricted to a certain extent, but at the same time, but at the same time, one second, yeah. But at the same time, this profit which we were supposed to receive earlier will be decreased. So let's say earlier we are going to receive a 200 points profit, but what we did, we bought a put option and we bought a call option, and the combined premium of these two was, let's say, for 40 points. So what will happen now here is we will be restricted to a minimum loss which is not going to be infinity. In the previous case it was infinity, but now it is not infinity, it will be a certain amount. But what will happen to this profit is it will now be 200 minus 40, so eventually we'll only end up in a 160 rupees profit. And this graph over here is known as iron condor. So this is basically an iron condor where we have a limited risk and we have a limited profit, and the capital required to carry out this transaction would be, let's say, if a strangle costs us around 1 lakh, this iron condor would only cost us somewhere around 50,000 rupees. So iron fly is also somewhat similar to these strategies. So this is a straddle, right? And if we buy put option and call option on both the sides, this is going to become a iron fly. That is, will have a limited risk on both the sides, limited risk on both the sides, but this profit is going to decrease by how many points? Whatever is the premium collected on buying both the options, so that will be the decrease in this. So let's say if we are going to receive a 400 points profit, and during hedging, let's say we collected a premium of 100 points. So overall this is going to be a 400 minus 100, a 300 points profit if on expiry day the price is going to expire over here. So to conclude, this is a straddle and this is a strangle, and in both the strategies we have sold a call option and a put option. And if we buy options as in for hedging, because we don't want to have this unlimited risk, so what we did, we went and bought put options and call options. So we bought a put option and we bought a call option. So this is now a limited risk on both the sides, and the capital over here was somewhere around 1 lakh rupees, but the capital for these strategies is only 50,000. So this is known as a iron Condor strategy, and if we do hedging to straddles, it becomes a iron fly strategy. That's it for today, guys. Thank you.